What's up, guys? This is Jay from COI. So, there are more and more protests happening here in the country. People calling to reopen the government, reopen the economy. And I don't agree with a lot of the protesters, and I don't agree with the governors either. Like in Michigan, the Governor Whitmer has banned the selling of seeds, banned lawn work. She banned you from going to see your mom. It's completely draconian. And as authoritarian as it gets. They're ridiculous. And I've said it the last time that I think that these kind of restrictions really, really hurt those states because at some point this is our normal and we're going to have to learn how to work within that normal. Taking off the bubble boy suit is going to be really painful for states that aren't acclimated to it. As where other states have kind of learned how to wiggle in and out of this and to kind of get by with social distancing still in place. But I take it more from the protesters who are going on and on about we just have to reopen the economy, start the economy, get it back on its track. And I hate to tell them, but that won't fix anything. If they just decide, hey, we're going to open it up. You're right, we're doing it. Let's open it all up. Floodgates open. Because nothing will happen. So you could check back at a place like Wuhan, where this all started, where this got really, really dark. They are basically back to being completely functional. And most of their businesses are still hurting. The movie theaters, the restaurants, not as many people. And you wonder why. Well, it's simple, honestly. There's no confidence. People don't want to go back out there. There's no confidence that says this the other person, the other couple next to me in this restaurant don't have the coronavirus. We have no securities in place that say that this is a location where I'm not going to get the coronavirus. People don't want to take that risk. I'm really interested in, they've talked about bringing the schools back. I'm curious how many parents are going to send their kids. What's going to happen with that? I personally think they should just call it for schools. They only got like a half a month left anyway. But this is a situation where I agree with both sides and I disagree with both sides. I just think the protesters, for the most part, they're just fundamentally wrong on their solution. I get wanting to uprise. I mean, what choice do you have left? The government was supposed to shut down in a multi-stepped process that started with what we have now, the shutdown. The second part, and almost unilaterally, they were supposed to implement a UBI kind of system. You could go with what England did or Canada has done, which is more of through the banks, and the government gives the banks 80% of everyone's wages. You could do it through the system like Spain, where it was done through the businesses themselves, and they played like a middleman. Either way, you could have done any of those things. What did our government do? Nothing. Oh, I take that back. They expanded unemployment. They gave us the small business loan, which is fantastic, and that one-time check that most people haven't gotten. So let's go over those real quick. The small business loan is a complete failure. Why? Because in the details of the small business loan, it wasn't for small businesses that only had up to 500 employees. No, it was 500 employees per location. So places like Shake Shack and big restaurants and organizations were able to get the small business loan. Now, to be fair to Shake Shack, they are returning the 10 billion they got, but there's a ton of other restaurants and other businesses that have not. And the SBA loan, the PPP, is completely underfunded now. We're out. There's nothing more. So, yeah, great job there. Unemployment. Multiple people I know are still waiting to receive unemployment. They haven't even been able to file yet because the lines are just that damn long that it's taken almost a month to even get on the list. We talk about the check, the shitty IRS website that doesn't work. Most people can't put their information in. The majority of people who are dealing with this actually won't ever get this solved, and that's going to be a huge problem. But instead, the legacy media decides to bash these people protesting. These people have very little. Where they're at, look what they're dealing with, and they're given no option. Here's the option. You starve to death or you take the risk and get coronavirus. Yeah, I think I would take the risk at coronavirus. Because you have a 100% chance of starving to death. Coronavirus, you got like 5%, maybe. That's up in the air. But the thing is the government did not follow their process. They should have put a UBI, step number 2. Step number 3 should have been cranking up manufacturing for raw materials for things like tests, PPE, the things that we really, really need and have needed and are going to continue to need, by the way. All in the step, by the way, of facilitating a reopening. Then you wait for this thing to completely die or to get below that 1% that we want. And that's infectious rate, not like 1% of the country having it 1% infectious rate. Then you have your PPE for all the businesses to come back. Look, we can open up tomorrow, but are you really going to eat in a restaurant where people aren't wearing masks and gloves and they're making your food for you? It's disgusting. They're going to be coughing and breathing right on your food, and they don't have the protective gear. But even further than that, no one's been tested. We've only tested like 1.3 or 1.6 million people in the country. We need to be doing 5 million tests a day. The tiny amount that we've done is minuscule compared to what needs to get done. Once we have that kind of testing in place, then we can put something else in place, like a digital tag that says you've been tested within this certain amount of time. Then you can go in and out of businesses and buildings, namely theaters or stadiums or restaurants. You can show them, hey, I've been tested. You're allowed in. People are then going to have the confidence to go into those stores, and the economy will maybe be at 60, 70%. That's how we start to come back. This idea of just opening up again, it's not going to be good. And you can kind of tell because in a place like Kentucky, where there was one of these giant protests, there's now a giant outbreak in coronavirus cases. And a lot of them are being linked to the people who are protesting. This is going to keep happening. I know we don't want it to be there, but it's there. And again, I don't blame the protesters. I get exactly why they're angry. I get why they're frustrated. But for the parts that they play, I would hope that they would take the time to think about what's really the problem. And it's not that their local bait shop is closed. It's not the fact that the the factory down the street is closed. It's the fact that the government didn't do its damn job. They should be giving you a UBI right now in some form. Monthly, weekly, however you want to do it. But it should be security there for you. Financial security until this crisis is over. They didn't do that. You should be complaining about that. You should be complaining that they need to work better on the health insurance right now. You should say, hey, they should be doing a Medicare for all kind of thing, a single payer system during the crisis because right now we don't have it. And people are losing their jobs and now they don't have health care either. Another step in the right direction. You should be bashing the fact that the stimulus bill, the bailout, was nothing but a synthetic blowjob to the 1% who are getting $4.8 trillion out of it, and you're getting, what, a half a Corona check and waiting online for 8 hours a day to get unemployment that you still haven't gotten to. Oh, by the way, while you're trying to teach your kid at home how to do geometry. And if you're Goldman Sachs, you just got the the opportunity to have all of your negative debts bought by the Fed. Fantastic. That's what you should be protesting. That's what you should be really angry about. And by the way, if you're the media who's spending your time bashing these people who are protesting, fuck you. We need to get rid of you in general. You are the main problem behind all of this because the fact that you're not doing your job, and I mean this universally, by the way, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're all garbage at their job. Because if they were doing it right, people like me wouldn't have to sit in a dark office doing a video about what should be done right and what's covered, what's not covered. But they don't care. Everything to them is partisan. And if it makes Trump look bad, then we can complain about it. If it makes Trump look good, then we brag about it, depending on what side you're on. You can already tell how any of these companies are going to cover a story based on who they are. If it's Fox News, it's always Trump is God, Trump is great, he's handling this. Hey, the coronavirus isn't a big deal. We don't need to worry about it. If you're CNN, holy shit, the coronavirus has ended the world. It's already over, it's too late. Pack it in, and it's all Trump's fault. Come on. You assholes all work for the same people, and we know that. Stop punching down. Stop going after these protesters who have the right to be upset right now and concerned. I implore you guys who are protesting, though, please use social distancing and protest the right things. Think about it. Use some logic when you're going through this. Look at Wuhan. Look at the countries who've come back. Look at the things that the government has not given you. And no, not because we should all be looking for a handout, but because it's your fucking money. You're going to have to pay this shit back. The big bailout that Boeing got, or that the oil companies are getting, yeah, that's your money. It's not a handout, especially when we need it the most. Anyway, it's just my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. What you think about the protests, the protesters, how we should be fixing this thing. Like I said, moving forward, I think it's all of our jobs to complain to the government that there wasn't a UBI put in place. This was part of a process, and they just skipped it. They didn't want to do it. And I honestly have no idea why. Because Trump is actually looking better right now. His polling is going up now that people are getting the corona checks and unemployment is kind of doing pretty good for a very select few people. But it seems like he has a handle on it, and so I don't know why he wouldn't do the UBI step. But we need to focus on that. We need to focus on rapid, correct testing and the ability to actually tag the people who've been tested and the credibility of these tests. Not to mention, we have to look at why the FDA is not approving certain tests. I know they're probably busy with a lot of things going on, but like Joe Rogan was attacked because he's testing his people, and he was able to use a concierge doctor, and they had testing. It's like $300 a person, but they're not FDA approved. Why? Because their accuracy apparently is pretty high. We really need to figure out a lot of that, and I think we all know what it is. It's people who have certain friends in certain positions in certain places, and those are the steps that have to happen, though, regardless. We have to know when people are sick or not sick, and we have to know whether or not we're going to choose to interact with these people. It's the only way this is going to come back, and I'm afraid it's not. And as Dylan Ratigan compared it to, the coronavirus and the economy is going to be like trying to herd cats. And it could take years. And it seems so foolish because the answer is just right there. I mean, literally, UBI shut everything down, everything for 2 to 3 weeks. And at this point, just give us the opportunity. Say, hey, you have 1 week to kind of buy up stuff for the next 3 weeks. Hell, give us 2 weeks. This has gone on forever. Then we're shutting down. No one's doing jack shit for 2, 3 weeks. And it's over. It's done. It'd be that simple. But instead, this long, drawn out process where everyone at the state level to the federal, everyone is failing. They're going to drag this on for years. It's really, really scary. Anyway, yeah, before I get into it again. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. You have a great evening. Stay safe.